Who knew that inviting your ex to a spirit seduction could bring back more than just old memories? The film begins with a family sleeping in a quiet suburban home. Suddenly, they are awakened by their daughter's screams at 3:15 in the morning. She is possessed by an unknown force that demands human sacrifices and warns that their house belongs to Diomedes. The terrified parents make a pact with the ominous force to protect their daughter and their home. The dark force leaves their daughter's body, and the family deals with the aftermath of the horror. Let's now take a look at the life of Will, a hard-working guy who works long hours at a toothpaste company. His girlfriend Amy feels neglected and upset because he is always too busy for her. In fact, he didn't even make it to her promotion party. Frustrated by the lack of attention, she decides to break up with him. Disappointed and frustrated, Will sets out to find a new place to live and meets Ken and his wife, who offer him their entire house. After some convincing, Will agrees and moves in with them. But things take a turn for the spooky when he sees a ghostly figure in the mirror after a workout. To add to the bizarre sight, Amy suddenly comes in to give him his toothpaste, which Will puts away in his basement. It's 3:15 in the morning. A demonic voice calls Will's name and says he's been made the scapegoat. Will suddenly wakes up when he hears a door shut and decides to investigate. He hears some whispering as he heads down to the basement. However, he realizes the sounds are coming from his headphones. He tries to listen carefully, but suddenly dance music starts playing louder, and he thinks it's just the rattling of new pipes. Strangely, the mixer turns on by itself. Will thinks the power must be bad. He goes back to his room to get some sleep, but then he hears a loud noise and falls out of bed. Shocked, he decides to sleep on the floor. However, just as he is about to fall asleep, someone grabs him by the throat, causing him to jolt awake in fear. Later, Will finds a cake in the oven. He sees "I'll take your soul" written on it. After the cake incident, Will calls his friend Patrick for help. Patrick suggests calling the authorities, but Will objects and asks what he'll tell the police. He suspects Amy because she's the only one who knows he's there. However, Patrick reveals that Amy has left him, which upsets Will, and he tells his friend to leave. Later, when Will returns from grocery shopping, he is shocked to see all the furniture scattered and drawers wide open. That night, as he tries to sleep, he hears whispers taunting him, calling him worthless. The door immediately opens as he closes it, and he is startled to find a ghostly figure standing in the doorway. Will runs down to look, but finds no one there. Suddenly, workout music starts playing on his Walkman, and he begins to exercise with the instructions. However, the instructor forces him to tire out and tells him to go to the basement. Will falls down the stairs, and when he arrives, he finds a pile of cakes with "Leave this house" written on them. The piano starts playing by itself, further frightening him. Then, Will is confronted by a ghostly figure sitting in a chair, shocking him. Another ghost warns him that Ominous cannot possess his soul and orders him to leave and never return. As he is about to leave, he notices a ghost wearing his t-shirt and with a smile on his face. He rushes to Amy's apartment, but finds her with her new boyfriend Nick, and leaves heartbroken. Upon returning to his new home, Will asks permission to stay away from the ghosts, but a ghost indicates that he is not welcome. Still, Will insists on finding a solution and the ghost disappears. As he heads to his room, the ghost boy appears again and warns him to leave, as he is not the intended sacrifice for Diomedes. Will demands to know why he cannot be the sacrifice. Frustrated, Will meets Patrick and reveals that he wants to leave town for a while, as he is tired of the demons telling him that he is not good enough. Misunderstanding him, Patrick assumes that Will is struggling with his inner demons. Suddenly, a girl appears, and Will suspects that Patrick framed her. Patrick introduces her as Amy, and they all start talking. Will reveals that his new house is full of ghosts, and the worst part is that they refuse to take his soul. To comfort him, Amy assures him that any ghost would be lucky to have his soul. She reveals that during her college days she used to cleanse houses of spirits and negative energies. Will takes advantage of this opportunity and asks her for help, saying that he needs to cleanse tonight because he is completely exhausted. As soon as they reach Will's house, he tells Amy that the ghosts can start making a ruckus at any time, especially around 3:15 in the morning. Suddenly, Amy senses a presence in the basement and asks if there is a little girl's room in the house. She asks for sage and salt and sprinkles salt in the room before beginning the purification ritual. Amy urges the spirits to leave the house and says that they are not welcome. Suddenly, a gust of wind blows, breaking the salt circle. Patrick guesses a window must be open and starts to close it. But Amy interrupts and explains that there is a demon in the house and that her ritual was for ghosts. She chokes and faints as she speaks. Will rushes to call Patrick, but hears a thumping sound from a room, where he finds him skipping. He tells him about Amy's condition and begs him to help get her to the hospital. It turns out that Patrick is possessed by Diomedes, and bringing his friends here puts them under his influence as well. Will ignores Patrick's warning and calls him an idiot, but Diomedes professes his love for idiots and then runs off and slams the door. Will goes down to the basement and tries to reason with the possessed Patrick, reminding him of his responsibility. However, Ominous refuses to free the woman from his clutches and insists on spending time with Will. Enraged, Will attacks the monster, but breaks his arm. Diomedes begins digging the ground, but Amy arrives and exorcises him. Will's arm is broken, and Patrick offers to take him to the hospital and take care of him. However, Will refuses, admitting that Amy saved them and that his broken arm has already healed. He decides not to stay with Patrick. Will insists on staying at home so that the monsters cannot escape and cause harm. Amy expresses concern and warns him about the dangers posed by the monster seeking sacrifices for his evil intentions. Will argues that the monster is not interested in him and he would rather stay at home alone. Patrick proposes that the two of them go to the hospital together and he can decide what to do next. Later, Will returns from the hospital after getting his hand treated and finds Amy waiting for him at home. Patrick had told her about Amy's accident. Amy asks to come inside, but Will hesitates, citing the danger. Amy insists that they can relax inside, and Will eventually agrees. That night, they settle their differences and reconcile. However, during their intimate moment, the shadow of a female ghost appears outside the window. The next morning, Will tries to convince Amy that their house is haunted by ghosts and demons, and that he plans to stay there to protect them from any potential evil spirits. He asks her if she feels the same, but she dismisses his claims. Suddenly, Amy's voice changes to a demonic tone, claiming that she never loved him and that she now belongs to Diomedes. Will exorcises the demon from his ex-girlfriend, and Amy falls unconscious. As she regains consciousness, Ominous mocks that this was the worst demon purge he has ever seen and walks away. Tammy, a bystander, watches from outside the house, smiling. He tries to ward off the demon by drawing symbols and throwing a crucifix at it, causing Demonis to scream and plead with HR not to fire him because he accidentally associated their toothpaste with the devil. Demonis claims Amy's soul for sacrifice. The call suddenly disconnects. The doorbell rings, and Patrick and Amy appear. Seeing Amy tied up, Will explains that Demonis has captured her soul and Amy says that the gates of hell open at 3:15 a.m. when the Ominous One will take Amy to hell forever. As they enter the room, Will and Patrick are shocked to see that Amy is missing from her seat. Suddenly, Ken and his family arrive, revealing that they were already aware of the situation. Will remains adamant and declares that no one will be sacrificed tonight. But a ghost interrupts and drags him into the basement. Meanwhile, Amy and Patrick plan to perform an exorcism to break the connection between the demons and the spirits. They gather Ken and his family to help, but as they work, Will finds Amy digging up the ground. Will makes a bold declaration, saying that if Amy is going to hell, he will go with her. Suddenly, the demons stop, and the wind blows out the candles. Amy checks the spirits, and the planchette says yes, causing a drawer to open and reveal "Help me" written inside. Amy realizes that the demons possessed the souls for their heinous deeds, and she begs them to tell her how to exorcise the demons so they can find peace in the afterlife. The spirit reveals that before possessing Grace, the demons possessed 2 girls in the house, who later escaped. Will tries to intervene, but Demonis breaks his arm and burns Amy with the toothpaste in his hand. A recording on the tape instructs them to destroy the demons' possessions. While looking for these possessions, they find a cake made by Demonis. Will tries to reason with Amy, but Demonis turns his head 360 degrees. Will holds her head and confesses that he was scared to go with her that night because he didn't feel good for her. After falling unconscious, Amy wakes up normally. However, the possessed Grace appears in front of them, followed by Patrick and Amy. Patrick reveals that Grace is now under Demonis control. Jake reveals that he is digging a pit to hell, while Amy admits that she has never seen anything like it before. Demonis pushes Amy aside and reveals that he has his sacrifice, and that they can no longer save Grace. As Ominous bites Amy and prepares to attack the others, they trap him, and Patrick closes the entrance by throwing toothpaste into it. Amy tries to trap Ominous in a cake she made, but he breaks free and jumps into the portal, dragging Amy along with him. In response, Will punches a hole in the cake, which oozes a green viscous fluid. As time passes, Amy and Grace emerge from the portal unharmed, and Amy explains that the spirits have finally found peace in the next realm. The female spirit begins playing the piano, and Ken eagerly asks Amy to get them out of her house, but she refuses, saying they are harmless. A year later, Will and Amy's romance resumes, and Ken decides to sell the house to Will. Amy reminds everyone that Diomedes was never able to find a suitable vessel to escape the house. However, the film ends on a horrifying note. As they are about to leave, Will sees Grace's terrifying smile staring back at him, leaving us all wondering what fate has in store for him.